Lindsey Graham is very upset about the possibility of the Democrats taking away the filibuster. I mean, he is vexed. And so he might even have the vapors. So he's going to tell us how vexed he is. Let's hear him out.
Here's what Biden needs to understand. If you go to the talking filibuster, we will take the floor to stop H.R. 1. I would talk till I fell over to make sure that we don't go to ballot harvesting and voting by mail without voter ID. I would talk till I fell over to make sure that the Equality Act doesn't become law, destroying the difference between a man and woman in our law.
Look, he's not kidding. We've actually found tape of this happening once before to Lindsey Graham, just talking until he fell over. Let's watch.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
All the king's men there, presumably Democrats, going, well, what are you gonna do? Go ahead and fall. Who cares? Who cares? So like, this is supposed to be a big threat. Like, oh, I will keep talking about how much I do not want black people to vote, and then I'll throw in a little bit of thing about, you know what? I also hate the LGBTQ community when I'm not one of them. Kind of. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting into falling over. But bottom line is, let's start with you. He says, look, guys, I will use the filibuster just like they did in the old days, and to make sure that black people can't vote. Are you scared of that threat that he's putting out there?
No, it's honestly just like Tuesday's show. Mitch McConnell said if they abolish the filibuster and the Republicans get back in rule, he's gonna grant us democracy. They're gonna enact a Republican agenda after winning. Like, don't threaten me with a good time, Mitch McConnell. And I say that to Lindsey Graham as well. Fall over, hurt yourself. Good, bump your head. Lindsey, walk in, Graham. I'm done with this dude. He's the biggest fraud. He's actually the biggest fraud in politics. Sometimes I debate between him or Ted Cruz, but like, nobody's been a bigger bootlicker. I was about to say bootlegger. Bootlicker.
That would be cool.
That would be cool if he was making moonshine on the Capitol Hill, but he's not. He's such a sycophant for Donald Trump. This guy's mind and whims change with the winds. He's the most opportunistic guy, probably in all of American politics. He's just the worst, man. He's awful.
I agree with you on the human weather vein there. I mean, I'll never forget when it was during the 2016 campaign when there was Lindsey Graham calling Donald Trump a jackass. And he said on CBS, stop being a jackass. Well, Lindsey Graham got stopped. Donald Trump won the election, and suddenly Lindsey Graham becomes Donald Trump's best friend. And now Lindsey Graham is literally gonna just keep talking and talking on the floor of the US Senate because he doesn't like what the Democrats are doing. Okay, go for it. I mean, I think the Democrats ought to make every Republican talk as long as possible. And even if Ted Cruz wants to start reading Dr. Seuss again, there are some Republicans who have suggested that just the mere threat of Democrats forcing people, the physical exertion to keep this going, that might actually break a logjam or two on some issues. Not on all issues, of course, but at least on some of them. And if there's a chance of that, great. And make it for the Democrats too. I mean, this is what the filibuster is supposed to be. If you're going to filibuster, actually talk and never stop until you reach some sort of agreement.
Yeah, so there's three components to that I want to talk about on the serious side. Number one, that's a great opportunity for Democrats to make their case. As the Republicans are doing a filibuster, it'll draw a lot of attention. The Democrats should go on TV and explain to people that the filibuster is almost always used to stop civil rights, and it has a deeply racist history. And what you're seeing with Lindsey Graham and Humpty Dumpty and the rest are the continuation of that racist history. Democrats constantly feel like they are not allowed to talk. Oh my, like they'll get scared. Like we laugh at his threat. I guarantee you, Chuck Schumer and other Democrats are right now like doing a conference call, like, oh my God, what if he actually does it? Oh my God, I'm so scared. What if they actually just vote? Well, okay, they talk. You also have mouths, you could also talk. and you could actually give the real facts instead of their facts. And in fact, you could humiliate them until they give in. That's how politics is supposed to work. We battle, then what they do next is they look at the polling, and good news, we have all the polling on our side, and then you win. That's how it works if you're not incredibly weak like Democratic leadership. If we had strong leadership, we'd be like, Lindsey Graham, you want to talk more about how racist you are? Have at it, Hoss. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. If I was Schumer, I'd bring that bill up tomorrow and be like, Lindsey, go. Let me see your racist ass up there. Okay, now to give you a sense of what I'm talking about, because I don't want you to think we're just throwing that word around, okay? Now, Adam Gentleson is one of the top experts in the country about this. He wrote a whole book about it. He used to be on Harry Reid's office. He's a good, solid progressive, actually. I always say, don't hold it against him that he worked for Harry Reid. Anyway, his book is called Kill Switch: The Rise of the Modern Senate and the Crippling of American Democracy. And it's a book about the filibuster. And he makes 2 points. I mean, he makes a lot of great points, but 2 points I want to bring up. Number one, between 1877 and 1964, there was, you know how many filibusters were about issues that were not about civil rights? 0. Every single filibuster was to block black people from voting. Every single one between 1877 and 1964. Finally, they passed the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act at that point, and the Republicans are like, oh, we can't hate on black people anymore. There's no point in the filibuster. Okay. So then they later brought it back, and then Mitch McConnell turned it into a filibuster factory. But at the time, its original intent, and it's not in the Constitution at all, it was invented by racist senators to keep black people from voting. Not only that, a lot of those filibusters were about lynchings. They just wanted to pass a simple anti-lynching law. And the racist senators said, no, I will talk until I fall to make sure that we can still lynch black people. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. It's in Adam's book. It's in every book. You can go look that up. So, we're still having a debate about this. This, as Dr. Rashad Ritchie put it earlier in the Young Turks, is basically office rule that has no power at all. That's not built into any law or any constitution, and is specifically meant to protect racists. And we're having a conversation about whether we should keep it. No, it is incredible weakness on the Democrats to not have ended it entirely already.
Cenk, when you finish the coffee creamer at the TYT studios, you gotta replace it, man. Other people are gonna want their coffee, other people are gonna want their cream. No, I'm just saying that's a good office rule. I like that office rule. You gotta replace it. But no, I mean, more importantly, man, than anything that I would like the listeners to take away from this is that McConnell led the charge in redefining how and when Republicans would use the filibuster. And it's basically been since 2009, right? Like the reason why we have this so defanged, healthcare legislation called the Affordable Care Act, AKA Obamacare, is because these cats couldn't get to 60 votes. Because Mitch McConnell was like, listen, we're filibustering everything from now on. They've been doing it for 12 years. When are you guys going to say enough is enough? I don't understand this, right? Like you come out and you say, well, we're supposed to ask the other side for permission to do stuff, even when we have majorities and blah, 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 and we work with them. When has that ever been effective? It's been 12 years of this bipartisanship for the sake of bipartisanship, utterly failing. Failure after failure. We're talking about bills that were Republican bills. You guys bring them up to a vote and they don't vote for it. Things that they freaking invented, they no longer vote for, right? And so 12 years of them spitting in your face, at what point are you gonna stop taking this, man? I don't understand this.
And Woz, one last point, because it leads perfectly into another quote from Adam Gentleson. He said, quote, what are we waiting for? We don't need any further proof that Republicans are going to obstruct. And David, isn't that indisputable? Like, they have voted no, all of them, on almost every bill And certainly in the Biden administration, they just had a chance to vote for COVID relief, which was 75% popular. The majority, or overwhelming majority of Republican voters were in favor of it, and they got 0 Republican votes. Are Democrats like Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer still trying to figure out, well, maybe the fever will break and we can get the Republicans to vote with us on some issues?
I wonder though, Cenk, if it's not so much about the Republicans as it is about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, right? Because if you can get those two senators to say, yeah, let's go ahead and change the rules, then the Democrats are off to the races, and to hell with having to worry about Republicans complaining about the process. The thing that I think is so puzzling to so many Democrats, and you guys have talked about this all the time, what is Joe Manchin waiting for? What is Kyrsten Sinema waiting for? I mean, as you've seen over and over, to your point, the Republicans are going to try to block everything. There's nothing that the Republicans are going to want to go along with on the Democrats, even on something like infrastructure. They're going to put all sorts of poison pills in the legislation. At a certain point, even Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin have got to recognize nothing gets done. Nothing gets done unless you're willing to change the Senate rules. And maybe they don't want anything done. And if that's the case, then they shouldn't be Democrats. But in the meantime, that's the part that's so puzzling to me.
Yeah, it's not a maybe. They definitely do not want any of the Democratic economic agenda done because they're corporate tools. And that's what the rest of the Democrats are not willing to say. Oh my God, we would offend our fellow Democrats who are incredible sellouts to corporations. So now we'll all unilaterally surrender because 2 Democrats said that they work for corporations and not for the voters. It's sickening.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.